Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, hello, my name is Emily. I love to chat about the library, plans, and other things that I'm doing. And if you're returning, welcome back. Today I'm doing my own version of TBR Takedown because I have 14 books borrowed from the library right now. And it is causing me a lot of stress. There's nothing wrong with the books that I have. I just haven't really been in that much of a reading mood to be able to read all 14 books. And then I've gotten some books on hold for my in-person book clubs, and then I have other ones that as I'm shelving books at the library, I see that I want to read and then I check it out that night. And sometimes none of them speak to me, so I'm I need to just go to the library and see what they have that I can start right now and read. And that is how I have accumulated 14 books. So my version of this TBR takedown is just going to be me trying to take down my library TBR. And this will definitely be a multi-part series. And honestly, I could see myself having a lot of fun with it. One, to hold me accountable to actually read my library books before the due date. And two, because I have 5 of these library books I'm actually in the middle of. So I also need to just finish those. Again, nothing wrong with any of the books that I'm in the middle of. I don't know. The slump is just slumping and I can't find anything that is really getting my interest until I started one of them yesterday. And now I'm I remember why I love reading. So I think I'm just gonna go in order of when I started these books because they were on my TBR cart in the order, so it's very easy to do that. Okay, number 1, Camp Zero. I got this book and I started reading it in the end of February or beginning of March or something like that. The date that I'm filming this, April 22nd. I started this book whenever I was first feeling the effects of a reading slump coming on, so I know that that definitely hindered my enjoyment, and I'm actually I'm really interested to get it back into this world. It definitely is fast-paced and it feels like I could finish this very quickly. I am about a third of the way through, but this is a climate science fiction book and they're based in Canada, I think, and it's just very snowy and all of that. So whenever I started it, I wasn't really wanting to read a book about climate fiction whenever we were going back and forth between blizzard and 80-degree weather. It just hit a little bit too close to home. So I think I want to try to finish this book. I know that I was kind of struggling to get into the writing style, so I might see if I can find an audiobook for this book either through my library or Libro.fm is having an indie bookstore day sale because indie bookstore day is coming up this Saturday. So their audiobooks are heavily discounted. So I might see if I can try and find an audiobook for this through Libro.fm. I don't know, we'll see, but I definitely want this to be one of the ones that I finished during this vlog. The next book that I started was Metal from Heaven, and again, nothing wrong with this book, it's just not one that I've been finding myself wanting to continue right in this moment, and I'm halfway through with this book. I have been really enjoying this book and the premise behind it. The only thing is the writing is a little bit confusing to me at times, but I feel like that is going to all come together by the end. And I think one of the reasons why it is so confusing is because our main character has this deficiency by being born into being born in this factory that produces this certain type of metal from heaven, and she's basically allergic to it. Allergic, that's kind of a bad term, but she feels side effects after she touches that touches that metal. So a lot of the time she is touching this metal, and I think she's loopy and confused, and I think that that's part of the reason why it's written that way, because we are in our main character's POV. So anyways, I was having a little bit of a hard time whenever I was kind of again feeling the effects of a reading slump, getting into a book that can be read a little bit or that is written in a little bit of a confusing way. But I really, really, really want to finish this book because I am really enjoying it, and I think I'm in a better mental state where I can read this kind of book. The next book that I have that I only a quarter of the way in is Ocean's Echo, and this is the second book in the duology after Winter's Orbit. I loved Winter's Orbit. I loved it so much. It was so good. This one, however, I am not loving quite as much because the main character is actually insufferable, and I hate him. But the main character in Winter's Orbit was also kind of that way in the beginning. The two main characters in this book and in Winter's Orbit, they were born into the ruling class and the wealthy, so they have a lot of privilege and you can't touch me mindset. And that's very insufferable to me. I hate that. But that is part of the character development. And I think when I was just dealing with too many really annoying ass men in my life, and then I'm also reading about that, I would rather die. But I do really want to finish this because I was kind of liking the the magic system of this world because they are just a little bit different. And I did really like Winter's Orbit. Like the writing style I read through really fast. So I think this is another one that I could probably finish very quickly. I just have to pick it up. I just have to read it. I just have to read it. So that is the third book that I think I want to try to finish during this vlog. The next one is Our Share of Night. Again, a slower book. I know in the beginning of this, I was like, there's not really anything wrong with any of these books. And like, I still stand by that, but there are like some things wrong with a couple of these books, but they're not ones that are like things that are so wrong that I would DNF it. You know what I mean? Okay, so this is a paranormal horror set in Argentina. I think Argentina, somewhere in South America. And the one thing that I'm kind of having trouble with this book is that the chapters are so long. Like the first chapter, well, it's split into parts. So part 1, or like the chapter, The Claws of the Living God, starts on page 1, but chapter 2 starts on page 139. Chapter 3 starts on 153. That's a short chapter. Chapter 4, 307. 150 pages. That is crazy that chapters are over 100 pages. There are breaks in the chapters, but like they're also like not really breaks. Like it's hard to get through. And I don't know if you can tell, but the text on these pages are so freaking small that it is taking me forever to get through this book. And I think the audiobook, like this book is a little bit less than 600 pages. The audiobook is like 25 hours. Like that's how long it is. And I thought about switching to audiobook for this. I don't think I'm going to, only because I would not be able to pick this back up in the physical version unless I was at like one of the chapter stopping points, but that is just like way too long. My library also doesn't have this in audiobook format. So I'm like enjoying it so far. I think the magic system is pretty unique, and I think it's an interesting take on like a cult situation. So I am really excited to continue this, and whenever I stopped, which again, I'm just about a third of the way through, I think I'm now in the POV of the son, and we're kind of learning more about like the child's, I guess, viewpoint, and I'm enjoying it, you know, I'm enjoying it. It just takes me so long to read, and coming out of like a reading slump, a book that's taking this long is not helpful, but nonetheless, I do want to make an effort to finish this because I do want to return to the library. I've had to renew it twice, and I don't know if I'll be able to renew it again. So this will be like a back burner one, but I would like to. And then the last book that I'm reading from the library is The Poet Empress, and I actually started this yesterday, already more than halfway through. This book is so good. It is not romantasy though. Okay, because I've seen it marketed as romantasy, and I did go into it blind a little bit. Like I knew it was romantasy, but whenever I hear romantasy, I don't really think about anything else because like that's such a loose term. Like by definition, it's different for everyone. So I take it with a grain of salt. I'm glad I did, because this is just a dark fantasy. There's no love in this book. Okay. I am, however, loving it. Like I'm devouring it. It's a very quick read. And the chapters are pretty short, which I think helps me like read faster. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but overall, like the story is it's just very good. So I think that this is probably going to be the first one that I'm going to finish, just to kind of like start this off with a bang. This book has like gotten me back into like wanting to read, and then hopefully it makes me want to pick up one of these other books that I'm currently in the middle of, because I need to finish these. The goal is to finish all 5 of these books by the end of April, and that will take my count down from 14 to 9. And I also have one more book from the library that I'm able to return, Model Home by River Solomon. Love this book. This was so good. If you like horror and if you like haunted houses, I think you should definitely pick this up. Check your trigger warnings though. But this is one that I will be able to return to the library at the end of the month. So that's actually going to bring my count down to 8. And then hopefully in May, I'll be able to finish the other 8 books that I have that I have borrowed from the library. I might borrow 1 or 2 more. One of them is a book club pick for May, so I do need to read that. And then another one is my book club book for June. So I might actually not read that until June. That is the goal for this video. This is my version, like I said, of TBR Takedown. I haven't seen anyone else like do this take on a TBR Takedown, but if someone else has, like, can you like link it in the comments, because I kind of want to watch it. Anyways, I've been talking for way too long. So goal for today is just finish this book. I think that's very doable. And then I'll check back in with you guys once it's done so I can give you my final thoughts. But right now, I'm loving this book.
your truth, and good will come to you. Home, sweet home. Home, sweet home.
So it's a couple days later, and this reading challenge is actually very successful. I've already finished 2 books of the ones that I have already started from the library. So the first one that I ended up finishing was The Poet Empress. This book, I finished it a couple days ago, and I'm kind of struggling with like figuring out how it's a 5-star read, first of all. I'm having trouble putting my thoughts down on paper though, because it was such a good book. I think my review is just wow. So good, and you should read it. So this book follows our main character, Wei, who has grown up in a very poor area, and she will do anything to help her brother and to help feed her family and basically just like support her town out of this famine. And one day the prince comes to her village and says that the heir to the throne is looking for concubines, and she decides that she's going to apply. And once she gets to the palace, the prince, who is notoriously ruthless and his magical powers has to deal with like swords and metal and stuff, so he just like magically create swords and control swords with his mind and murder people in that way. He chooses Wei as his betrothed, so now she's betrothed to him and has to find ways to like, I don't know, I guess like murder him so he doesn't become prince, because he is such a piece of shit. And so throughout the story she's learning, you know, about his past and why he is the way that he is through multiple different other characters and multiple different ways of storytelling, and my heart breaks for him, but I also fucking hate him. It's just so good. It really pulls at your heartstrings. The ending, I don't think there could have been a better ending for this book, and I'm really battling with a lot of different emotions when it comes to these main characters, but this book was so good. You should absolutely pick it up. And the second book that I finished was Camp Zero. I wasn't sure if I was actually gonna be able to finish this book, because whenever I originally tried to start reading this book, I couldn't really get into the writing style, but it was also on the forefront of my slight reading slump that I've been in for like the past month. I did finish this book. Very good. I think this one I'm rating, I think like 3.5 or 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book, but the ending was so unsatisfying that I'm kind of pissed with how it ended. I think it touches on capitalism and greed and how rich people are generally just pieces of shit, and definitely cli-fi, you know, that's like the whole point of this book, but also how you can find community, how women are just so much better for society, and how whenever you support one another, you can thrive even in a terrible situation, a terrible society that you live in. And there were many parts to this that I did really enjoy. I really liked how everything came together in the end. That said, the ending was very unsatisfying. I feel like I wanted like 100 or 150 extra pages of this story just to figure out like how it ends. But I am really glad that I read it. So I have now checked off 2 books from my library TBR, and I think the next book that I'm going to try finishing this weekend is Ocean's Echo. I have 6 days left of April, so I'm really hoping that I can at least get through 2 more, or just decide if I want to DNF any of these books. That way I can just return them to the library. Overall, this challenge is definitely holding me accountable to actually reading my library books, because I had the urge today to pick up a different book, and I was like, no, Emily, you need to finish the books that you have started. That is what you wanted to, that was your goal for April. So I think the next book I'm going to finish is Ocean's Echo. Whether that's completing the entire thing or just deciding to DNF it, I don't know yet, but that's the goal. With reading challenges, you win some and you lose some, and this is a reading challenge that I have lost because it is April 29th, and I have not picked up either of the 3 books that I still needed to read from the library, and I think I'm just going to admit to myself that these need to be DNFs for me. I don't know if they will be hard DNFs, soft DNFs, if I will come back to it. I don't know, but I'm not in the mood for any of these books, and I feel like trying to force myself to finish these books just for this reading challenge will put me into a reading slump, and I don't want to do that. So let me explain. Our Share of Night, I just don't think this book is for me right now, and also I don't know if I can read it. I don't know if it's for me in physical format either, because I was talking to a couple people about this book, and they said that the audiobook version is much easier to follow because there is just so many words in this book. Like, and I know reading is like, how do I put this? I know reading, like, obviously is books, but there's just a lot of like things that don't feel like they need to be said in this book. Like, there's just a lot of words, not to sound like Kevin from The Office, but like...
So me think, why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
So I made it to page 182, and I kind of like stopped where this page break was. And the one thing that I'm having a really hard time with this book is how long the chapters are. They are excruciatingly long, like over 100 pages. It also like jumps around in time, which is really confusing to me whenever whenever the chapters are so long, because I can't remember like the time I'm supposed to be in, or like what happened previously, like what time in relation to what I'm reading now, when it happened. I made it through the dad's POV. I actually really liked the dad's POV, and then we went to like the doctor's POV, and that was a very short chapter. I was really confused about what was happening in that chapter, but I figured it was just like a little side story that was going to be needed for like the following chapter. And now the chapter that I'm in is of the kids' POV, and it's definitely interesting getting that like secondary perspective. I'm just not vibing with it in the way that I did in the beginning of the book. So TBD if I switch to audiobook. I have no idea how I will find where I am in audiobook, because this is where the kids chapter starts here, and this is where I'm at. And the chapter ends here. It ends here. So how am I supposed to find that? That is a very fucking long chapter. So I just don't think this was for me. Getting into it, I thought it was a Latin horror book, which with like vampires and stuff, but there's not actually many vampires, or like the vampires. I haven't gotten to much of what the vampire aspect is. It's more like a horror about an occult. Although there is like magical elements to it, the main character is also a white man, which I was not expecting. I know that people who live in Argentina can be white, but the main character was born in Europe and then moved, or not moved. Yeah, I guess he did move. He was brought to Argentina to get this like very specific and not approved heart surgery from the doctor whose chapter is number 2. It's just very weird because the cult that the story is talking about is full of like people who live in Argentina and non-white people. And then this person from Europe comes over and they're like, oh my gosh, this is who we have been waiting for. And now he is like, basically our entire cult revolves around him. And it was kind of weird. I don't know. It's not, maybe weird is not the right word. It was just not what I was expecting. And that mixed with the very long chapters, I'm going to put this on hold, soft D&D. I don't know. I think also it just was taking me so long to read because the words on the page are like microscopic, that it was taking me like 3 times as long to read one page than it normally would. So I'd be reading for like an hour and then I'd only get through like 25 pages. That was a blow to the ego. So the other book that I did not finish, I only got to chapter 8, was Ocean's Echo. And this is another book that I was really trying to convince myself that I wanted to pick up and I wanted to read, even though my brain was like, Emily, you actually kind of don't. This is set in the same world as Winter's Orbit, and I loved Winter's Orbit. I thought it was so good. I loved the world building. I loved the politics. I loved the 2 main characters. Generally, I just loved everything about that book. And this one, while it is set in the same world, it's almost like on a different planet or something. Like, it doesn't have the same magical elements. It does have the same like general like political system and like the ruling political class, but there's not really much like politics in it. So there's mind readers, and then I don't think mind readers, hang on, let me get this right. Tenel, who is one of the main characters, can read minds. Surrett can influence them. So there's people who can read minds and influence minds. And the person, Surrett, who is like a fucking bootlicker and very, very like gung-ho for the military, was supposed to influence the mind of Tenel, who can read minds. But it was like not consensual, and while the main character did not do that, Surrett did not do that to Tenel, he was like very against that, there was still a lot about this world that felt very invasive for things that were not consensual. And I know that telekinesis type of magic, like, yeah, that is a thing. I'm just finding that I don't like that. So that mixed with the main character Tenel being absolutely insufferable, and I hate him. I actually despise him. Hated every time he opened his fucking mouth. I'm like, you know what? I am done with this book. I'm going to DNF this book. This one will probably not be one that I come back to because I have talked to other people about this book who also loved Winter's Orbit. I was like, hey, does this get any better? And they were like, no. And they had the same issues that I have. So if they had the same issues that I have and they had finished the book, I don't think it's worth my time to continue the book. So that will actually be a hard DNF, but one that will probably be a soft DNF is Metal from Heaven. And that is because I read this, I started this, I think it was like in February. I got to chapter 10. This was I stopped at a very like defining, it felt like a defining turning point in the story. So I was like, let me just stop here because I was feeling myself getting into a reading slump. I just thought this would be a good place to stop, you know, as it happens. But I remember as I was reading this book that I was just like very confused because our main character, and what is her name? Marnie is born in this like factory. Her entire family basically works in a factory and she was literally born in the factory. And being exposed to like all of this metal that they were making in the factory, she is basically allergic to it, but I think allergic is not like the correct word, but that's what I'm going to use here because I can't remember exactly what it was. But basically every time she touches this metal, she gets very like loopy and she's acting like high and her brain is like all messed up, all scatterbrained, like she's just loopy, you know? And because it is first POV, so we are in the mind of the main character every time she touches the metal and she gets loopy like that. It is written that way and it is very, very, very confusing. I think it's great. I think the way that the author wrote it is great. I'm just having a hard time following along. I'm just not vibing with it too much. And I know that it's going to continue throughout the entire story because one of the issues, the turning point, plot point that I had stopped at was that she was going to go back to her hometown where her entire family was killed during a labor strike by the oppressors. So I know that I would enjoy it. I just don't know if I can deal with the confusion that I had when I was reading this because the world is progressing as one does, and with this metal it's now being put into like everything, so everything that she touches she gets loopy, and now she's going back to the town that is ground zero for this metal. It's like all going to be loopy and trippy and confusing, and I just don't want to read that right now. So this one will probably be a soft DNF. I might try to switch to audiobook because I feel like I might be able to comprehend it a little bit better. But this is another one where I talked to people who have read this book and they were like, yeah, I agree with everything you said. So me feeling that way now and having half of the book to get through, I don't really want to be confused while I'm reading. So I'm going to soft DNF this one for now, but it is going to be returned to the library because it's due tomorrow. So these are the 3 books that I DNF'd, and I did start this like challenge for myself to get through all these books before they were due at the library. I was kind of debating if I even wanted to like post this video or film this little like end recap because it's not really like the point of why you clicked on this video, but I think it's also important to show that sometimes with reading challenges, you're going to fail. I mean, like, is it really a fail if you just like didn't enjoy the book and you don't want to read it? Let this video serve as if you are not vibing with the book that you're currently reading, you should DNF it. You should DNF it, and it's completely fine if you do that. And that's one reason why I love getting books from the library, because if I don't like a book, I haven't wasted my money on it, you know? Like, I can just return it to the library, and that's totally fine. Someone else will probably like it way more than me. So I got through all of the books that I was in the middle of that I set out with the intention at the beginning of this video. Now I only have a couple books that I haven't started yet, and actually, hang on. I think I will have another video about finishing the rest of my library loans, but I have these 2 books that I got purely based on the cover, Kiss of the Basilisk, and Between Two Kings. I got both of these books, have no idea what they're about. I just saw on the side Romantasy, and I was like, I kind of want to read Romantasy, so I picked this up. From the cover looks pretty cool. It looks like I might enjoy it. However, I started reading the synopsis when I got home, and I also started reading reviews. These books are snake smut, like reptilian smut. Like, there is no plot. She's fucking every son and his father, and they're all snakes. They're all basilisks. They're all reptiles. And, you know, I'm not like shaming anyone who does like that, because, you know, I love a good monster romance. I think reptiles is actually where I draw the line though. I don't know that I could read that. And there were a couple reviews. I was like, no, it can't be that bad. Like, let me try it. And then I was looking through the reviews, and I'm gonna read you the ones that actually convinced me to not read this and to just return these two to the library because I won't be reading them. DNF at 6%. How did anyone get past the part where he compares her beauty to a handful of ejaculate? How? Pass. Book must be big with the only reads dialogue crowd. There are better ways to spend your time than reading this book, like gouging your eyes out. At least then you won't have to look at another awkward description of liquid pearl semen. And then this last review, I'm actually like, this was actually the one, like the other ones, like, I was kind of like intrigued, and then this one I was like, oh, no, I am actually not going to read this book at all. The real fantasy is that not one but two dudes would be in love with her. This book is too long and the smut was nonstop. And spoiler, I guess, her pelvis breaking during the dirty was obscene. Not okay, not cool, I'm scared for my life. Do you know how hard you would have to fuck someone for their pelvis to break? And this isn't a romantasy book, and it's like being romanticized. Oof. They're gonna return to the library, that's all I have to say. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I feel like a little bit of relief for choosing to DNF these books, and now the library books on my bookshelf are significantly decreased because I am returning not one, not two, but 7 or 8 books back to the library. That feels like a huge achievement. I have videos releasing every weekend morning. If you're interested in that kind of thing, then maybe you would like to subscribe to my channel. Live, laugh, love the library, and I live, love, love you all, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!